Hello, everyone. Thank you once again for joining us for another Sips and Dips. And Foti, it's Sips and Dips, I'm telling you. Thanks, everybody out there for coming in and watching. And we want to thank our super awesome special co-host, Susanna Hoffman. Before we bring Susanna on, let me introduce Fotios Stamos. Hello, Foti. How are you?
Yes, so Ari, and I will go back to saying dips and sips.
I don't think so.
Another exciting segment with our good friend, co-host, our resident, we'd like to say resident chef, cookbook author, anthropologist, Dr. Susanna Hoffman. Once again, as always, an honor to have you with us. You bring joy and excitement and information, and we learn every time you come on, regardless of how smart we think we are. And in this segment, in this dip segment, we are going to be exploring grape leaves in a way that I have not been used to or known, but Dr. Susanna is going to enlighten us because when it comes to grape leaves, growing up as a Greek American, we all have those fun stories to tell as our parents would pull over on the side of the road, spotted grape leaves, and they'd go out with possibly a shopping bag that they had in the trunk and collect grape leaves to bring back home. But it was part of our upbringing here in the U.S., but it goes beyond that. And Susanna, I'll let you take it from here. Tell us a little bit about what we're going to be exploring today.
Well, first I'm going to talk about the shopping bag. Because as you know, the god Hermes had a bag that he could put everything into, and it never got full. And I've always thought of Greeks as always having a bag wherever they went. When I lived there a lot, there were string bags, and you could put load it with grocery after groceries and bottles of wine and cans of olive oil, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger. So that's Greece in the shopping bag anecdote. Obviously, grapes have been in the Greek cuisine from the beginnings of when they began making wine, and that was very long ago. Foti probably knows more about this than I do, but the first evidence of winemaking was actually from the Zagreb Mountains in Iran. They run it in a strip next to Iraq. But you have to remember that at that time, the Indo-Europeans were invading from about 6,000 BCE and in different groups, and they were essentially proto-Indo-Europeans in which the Greeks were. So we don't know whether it was another indigenous group that started using the grapes, or it was something related to Proto-Greek. Certainly the Persians and the Greeks spoke a mutually understandable language. They had not been tribally different that long. The first group that came down was probably the Hittites. We know it was the earliest kind of Proto-Indo-European because it doesn't have quite all the declensions in it that the later Indo-Europeans like Greek and Armenian and Celtics have. Lithuanian and Albanian are the ones that retain all of the ancient forms. The rest of you guys have kind of moved on, dropped a lot of declensions, made it a little easier. And anyhow, then immediately after, it seems to be the Greeks who actually discovered they could make wine out of the grapes. So whether they were using the grape leaves immediately or not, I don't know. But the chances are, since Greeks gather about 125 different kinds of greens and are pretty aware of whatever's edible out there, every watercress, every horta, every spinach variety, then that they might have pretty much realized early on that you could use them.
Susanna, we have a motto here between Foti and I, and since you host a lot of these with us, maybe you could agree with our motto. If we're not sure, there's no evidence, Greeks did it. That sound good to you?
Sounds a lot.
Prove me wrong.
I'll drink to that.
I sound so stole.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Anyway,
that's very interesting. I like that.
I find that nowadays in the cuisine that grape leaves are known. Everybody knows dolmas in 2 varieties. By the way, Greeks didn't get rice until way, way later. So it's amazing how important it is in the cuisine.
Mm.
Really what they were using was barley and wheat. And when rice came in, I mean, Alexander the Great knew about rice, and he brought some with him when he came. He didn't get all the way back, but his groups did. But it was very expensive and seemed to be exotic, and it was really only much later. And it's funny, much later that they began to use it. And it's funny because it could have come along the spice route, because they were certainly getting a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
At canela early on, cinnamon, and other kinds of herbs. I was just reading a book about, it proposes, there's a spate of books out now that propose to be the stories of the women of the Trojan War and the women of Greek mythology, and they're wonderful books. But this one just said that she added sugar to her tea. No, there was no sugar. There was grape reduction, fructose, now called pezimenti, and there was honey. But anyhow, they did have lots of spices, mace and canela and cardamom for sure, and lots of herbs.
Yeah.
So other things that you can do with grapes, and I'm going to make one of them today, and I'm going to do something unusual with it. I'm going to make a cream cheese. I wish I had Minori, but I can't get it here, so it's going to be regular cream cheese, feta, and grape leaves as a dip, and it's very fast. I mean, if you're ever pressed for time and you have to bring something to a party, this one is 5 minutes. Ooh. And you're good to go. And then, but what I'm going to do with it that's really unusual is I'm going to take squash blossoms, Colchicotho amphi, and I am going to saute those, crust them and saute them, and fill squash blossoms with grape leaf and 2 cheeses. Oh, wow. And Cody's got the recipe. Now, other things you can do with grape leaves that I do all the time, I wrap whole fish in them, even for grilling and certainly sauteing and baking. And it's wonderful with fish because fish likes that tartness that a grape leaf has. I wrap quail and small birds in them. I mean, it adds wonderful flavor to the flesh. I put them in stews. I make a chicken, yogurt, red onion, and shredded grape leaf stew, baked chicken dish. I make a squid with, I preserve lemon in ouzo, and then I cook the squid, not calamari, breaded, but the regular calamari. And I saute that with grape leaves and the ouzo lemons.
Wow.
So
Make us
that's and that's some of the stuff I do with grape leaves, but I consider it an element of my daily cuisine. I can use them for all kinds of things. Like I do paper leaves.
Consider it a superfood, maybe? I mean, I wonder what the nutritional elements of grape leaves present as such other greens would as well.
I mean, if it's a dark leafy green, I'm assuming it's pretty healthy.
Yeah, I would expect that it's got some antioxidants. I'll bet it's like kale. I didn't look up the nutrition part of it when I was thinking about doing this, but it would have been a good idea.
Susanna, I have a quick question. I've always seen through my upbringing, even in Greece, the process of seeing grape leaves drying out. And they're stringed along and they're laid out to dry. Is there a certain reason or purpose for that?
I don't know if I've ever even seen that. Is that something like,
Yeah, I remember as a kid growing up that when
is that a regional thing maybe?
I don't know. I live in a grape growing area when I'm there on Santorini, and I've never seen that, but they certainly dried other things a lot.
Yeah,
both
but to his point, I personally haven't seen that, so I'm interested. Do you think that's regional, Foti, for where you guys are from?
possibly, and then I think they would come in and then they would get soaked, or
Yeah,
they would be put into a brine.
I don't think I've
You
ever
don't
seen
know
that.
what they did with them.
Oh no, I'm just saying that's how they whether they bought them that way and they were brought back to the house, then they were actually soaked after, but they were bought dry, as if they were drying in the sun.
Well, in a way, it might have been an ancient way of keeping them because they didn't have canning, they didn't have bottling.
Yeah.
So maybe that's how they kept it for domadas.
Is
And
that
then they
what,
kept them.
did your family like save the leaves for another time and do that?
I think so like in the family homes back on the island of Carlos, there would be like a not a pantry, but a section of the house where there were dry goods, and there'd be on the walls hanging dry grape leaves, and then when they needed them, they would grab them from there and use them.
Okay, so here in my house, whenever we picked grape leaves, like we would use them right away.
Right
So
away, yes.
that's why I never
I
probably saw that.
maybe Suzanne, if they were picking so much to get them through the season, they could.
You could also just as, on your own. I mean, certainly where I live, they preserved capers and caper leaves. And I don't see why you couldn't have done grape leaves in the ancient days in the same way, in a pottery crock,
Mhm.
no vinegar, just sea salt, as they
Yeah.
do capers, actually. I actually hate the ones that got vinegar on them because, and in a good Greek market, you can get just salted capers and caper leaves. And
Our
they're
friend,
Hmm?
our friend Karen just put in the chat that grape leaves consist of fiber, vitamin A and K, and calcium.
Perfect.
So that's good.
Yeah,
Thank you, Karen.
Maybe we can create a
thank you very
supplement.
much. I should have gone back into my chemistry.
Yeah, I mean, so this is going to be for us very fascinating because we're not used to having grape leaves shredded into a recipe other than what you mentioned, grape leaves being used to wrap a dish.
Well, in the dip, they're completely chopped in and
Yeah.
blended. And as I said, if you take it to a party, this dip, and nobody knows what it is, and it's gone. It takes 5 minutes to make, and if you don't make enough and you take it to the party, it's gone in 5 minutes. It's just delicious, and very unusual, and then when I turn it around and do different things with it, I've also used it. I've stuffed fish with it. I don't usually like to put something cheesy in a fish, but this one works. And what was I doing the other day? Well, use it as a spread, but then you have to lighten it a little bit. You have to add something to make it more drippy, but you can do that with it too. And I wanted to go back one thing, and because I love to talk about the words. So colokitho amphi, colokithia has no name. I don't know meaning. I don't know where it comes from. We don't know where it comes from.
Just made it up.
But you should know where amphi comes from and what it means.
Well, we know it's used as a name for female.
Well, yeah. But what does it mean? Do you remember what it means?
Does it derive from a flower?
Yeah, it means nowadays the word that Greeks use is boketa. It means bouquet. And where do we get it? Where is it used in English?
The word anthe in English?
Yeah, we use it all the time in English. Anthology.
Got me.
Wow. Never put those two together.
A collection of things, like a collection of music or a collection of stories, is an anthology, and it comes from the Greek for bouquet.
Bouquet.
A collection of flowers.
You know, as
So-
a Greek speaking person, I should have done better on my SATs, I think.
As I've said to you before, about 37% of English has a Greek, comes from Greek.
Yeah.
Through Latin, a lot of it through Latin, but nonetheless a Greek origin.
Yeah, it's amazing. The obvious things that you know as a Greek speaker, but then something like what you just mentioned, I had no idea about. And then when you think about it, it makes perfect sense. That's
Yeah.
great.
Hmm.
There was a restaurant in New York for a while that was wonderful called Anthos. That was the same as, as a bouquet, meant essentially bouquet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
If you know Michael Psilakis,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. We had some good memories with Michael Psilakis in the early part of his fame, so to speak.
Anyway, I think should I just start
Yeah,
making
let's
this
get
dip? to show you?
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely.
As I said, it's 5 minutes. I think I'm going to ask Ron to hold the camera for me. Ron,
Is he on break?
my non-Greek partner.
He's the key grip.
You're going to hold the camera while I make the dip.
All right.
So I'm going to make a half recipe, and that is enough to fill a dozen squash blossoms and plenty for us. I'll show you the size of the dip. It's just a half recipe. It's a lot.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to take, and all you need is a Cuisinart. This is a half a cup of, or 8 ounces of cream cheese. Now, if you really want to go Greek, you could use Manuri. It's the only one that's soft enough. Mizithra is a hard cheese, and it doesn't work. I think they're both made out of whey. I think American cream cheese is also. But by the way, there are now Greek cream cheeses, and you can get them from Franklin, from Green Mountain Farms, and even Kroger grocery stores are carrying Greek cream cheese, which is much tastier than what I get here in Colorado. This is just sort of your regular cream cheese, American cream cheese. Colorado is a kind of a Hellenic desert, or at least Telluride is at 9,000. All right, so I'm going to put that in the Cuisinart.
Your cameraman is trying to minimize the glare. So let me know how I'm doing.
Afternoon sun. And then I'm going to add a 1/4 cup, in this case, because I'm doing a half recipe, of Feta. And again, I have some good Feta here. Where did I put it? The really good stuff. Except this is not Dodonis. So that's my favorite for just eating and for salads. For using in spanakopita and things like that, I like straight Epirus. But Dodonis is from Epirus.
Wow.
And other areas that produce good Feta are Kefalonia, Thessaly, where else? Thrace.
Yeah.
And then I'll talk in a few minutes about the Sarakatsani, the shepherds of Greece, not the Vlachs. But they're great, but we're not sure their background. Some of them speak a Romanian dialect, some of them speak an Albanian dialect, but the Sarakatsani, and they're all over Greece, but they're mostly from Epirus over to Thrace and along the spine, they're mountain shepherds. They're pure Greek. They have a dialect of Greek, but they've been there forever. And it's a really neat culture because they have their own thatched huts. They don't marry out, and they produce most of the milk for the cheeses of Greece.
Wow.
You guys know about them? I think you probably do know about them, but
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about it, but I mean that's really interesting.
Yeah, and they're transhumance in that they use 2 different territories. In the summer, they'll be up in the mountains, and as the time it gets cold, they come down to the coastline. They start the milking in February down on the coast. The milk master comes in, has cauldrons set up, and they start producing the cheese and the whey. They make the keflotiri, they make mizithra, and all the other milks that are, for the main, most of the milks that go into the cheeses of Greece. Again, they don't marry out. This culture has gone on for a long, long time. Now, the other thing to remember is this is all sheep's cheese. People tend to think that feta is goat's cheese. It's not. The Sarakatsani save the goat's cheese that they make for their own households because it's cheaper and less refined. It's not the best. So most of the really good Greek cheeses are sheep's cheeses, or sometimes a mix of sheep and goat.
Oh, wow.
Feta is sheep's. Good feta is sheep's cheese. And you can buy goat's feta. And most of the grocery store stuff is goat's feta. But if you're really going to do good feta, go to Astoria or someplace or get a Douglas or something like that. It's sheep's.
Interesting.
Very
So here's a quarter cup of feta. Again, it's Telluride, so I was only able to get not so good feta. I got it from Whole Foods, but they won't say where it's from. So,
Okay.
and by the way, feta is recognized as a designated varietal. How do you put that? As Greek.
Yes.
And wherever it is, it's supposed to say, if they use the word feta, it's supposed to be Greek. Now in America, they can get away with it being Bulgarian or French, but in Europe, it's got to be, if you're going to say feta, it has to be Greek. Otherwise, it's supposed to say feta style.
Right. I still see products in the industry that are still kind of getting away with using the word feta.
Yeah, they're getting away with it. There's no enforcement.
Is that what about Susanna? Is that the case with Greek yogurt? Does that have protection or designation?
Yeah, I know. That's another one. So I'm going to take this for a half recipe, 3 to 4 grape leaves. And remember how they stick together. So you have to be sure you're not doing doubles.
Oh.
So here's one. Actually, that's a double. So it's 2. Here's number 3. I'm going to add a little 4th. And I'm going to put in 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, which I've already squeezed in my little handy squeezer here. And a tiny pinch of salt because feta is salty generally. In fact, the varieties are different by salt. And that's it. That's the ingredients. So all you have to do is chop it up. That's how fast it is and how few ingredients.
Wow.
So that's all you need to do. And if you're going to take it to the party as a dip or use it, it looks like this.
Oh, wow. That
And
is
have it
looking
in
good.
commercial pita chips and homemade pita chips.
Mm.
I'm going to have a bite. A lot there. Now, here's what I'm going to do with it today. The same dip. Because I'll take it out of here. Over here, I have a dozen squash blossoms. Now, they come like this. The zucchini grows off this tip, and I can't get it that way here, but you can still get a whole zucchini and the blossom. You don't have to kill the squash to get the blossom. Mm. And they have 5 petals, and the petals like to cling together, so they're closed, which is an advantage if you're stuffing them.
Yeah.
So what I've done This just had the regular dip. I'm going to take a little olive oil, heat it up in a saute pan, or this skillet in this case, either one. Medium heat, and very gently. And by the way, your hands are going to get very sticky.
Okay.
I'm going to open up this blossom. See? There's the stamen inside.
How's it look?
You see it?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm going to take about a tablespoon of the dip, kind of mold it in a little bowl. I'm going to put it in the middle of this blossom and reclose the petals. So they're closed again.
Oh, wow.
Now, I made a light egg dip, and this is with, it's one egg and probably a good tablespoon and a half of water. I want it very light. I don't want a heavy crust on these because they're just too delicate. And you want to get, ultimately, you want to still be able to taste the delicate squash leaf. So again, one of the problems with some of the Greek versions of stuffing squash leaves, squash blossoms, is they make like a heavy batter and dip the whole thing in. And so it comes out crusted, you just lose it. But this instead is a very, very, very watered down egg. And I just roll it lightly in this. And this is a mix. You can use just breadcrumbs. You can use just panko. At the moment, I'm using a mix between breadcrumbs and panko.
Nice.
So just a light covering.
Very, very light covering. Just
Yeah,
very light. Just enough so so it's crunchy. And I have to warn you, you have to keep count because, and you have to tell everybody just how many they can have, and then they have to stop because otherwise these are so good that some guruni is going to eat the whole bunch.
That would be Ari.
That would be Foti.
That would be Ari.
So I'll take another one.
That looks just so pretty. Like it's like a beautiful dish. Wow.
That's how they come out. And by the way, they're not in the saute pan more than 4 or 5 minutes.
Max.
Gotta keep turning them, yeah. And I tend to use this to turn them, but very fast again. A little bit of cheese. Close down the blossom, roll it in a little bit of egg, roll it in a very just crumbs, not a batter, and into the pan.
It's a very cool dish. I love it.
And that light coating just basically seems like it just keeps everything together.
And I'm going to do a third. I don't know how many to do. You guys are going to have to pick up the conversation here.
Well, I'll order a half dozen if that's okay. But
That's the only disadvantage of doing these virtually is that we can't just get at them.
Yeah.
As Susanna is preparing the rest of these, we do have another question from our good friend Karen for Susanna. This I'm assuming this is a brand, but Karen is asking, how does Greco Feta compare to the brand that you like?
Greco Feta.
Greco Feta compared to what?
To the brand that you like. You talked about the Donis. So the Donis is
It's a region. It's a region of Iberus that makes particular smooth feta. That I think is the kind of like the high class when you want it really in a delicious salad. When a dish is not rough, you know, when you want a smoother, more elegant feta. If you have a chance to go to a real Greek market, counter, the deli counter, the dairy counter will be full of fetas from different regions. Dodonis is probably the classiest. But I like regular Epirus feta too. I mean, that's what I put in, certainly in my my pies.
And then also, Susanna, we've seen offerings, varelli, like barrel feta, which I'm not sure if there's vareliso, as they say, vareliso feta, where it's a little more expensive. It definitely takes on a different dynamic with flavor and texture.
Yeah, the
But
texture is what you find different in fetas, and also, if I could use that word, sweetness doesn't seem to apply to a feta very well. But
with
the smoother they are, they're slightly more. They're the less smooth ones are a little rougher in flavor.
right. I was just gonna say for our audience, I'm sure, for those that are not familiar with the different varieties of feta and styles, what should one look for when it comes to quality of feta? I mean, there's a lot of domestic fetas, there's a lot of non-Greek fetas that are being produced around the world, but obviously everything's personal preference and it's subjective to what people like. But growing up in a Greek household, I've been subject to different varieties of feta where I remember growing up that some fetas were very sour, um, very salty and sour and soft. And, some family members were like, oh, this is fantastic. And, it's tough to kind of understand, is this how it's supposed to be? Sour, salty, and soft versus,
It's the
you know,
brine. You should
right.
also make, whoops, the brine on my floor. Brined feta is the way to go too. You
Mm,
don't want to get a dry feta if you can avoid it. Try
Yeah.
to when it's still in its brine. And
it's
if you go
fine.
to a good Greek market, they will put it in a tall plastic cup, a big hunk of it with a lot of brine.
Mm. Um,
All right, I'm turning these guys.
Hold on.
So we should talk about what we're pairing this with, which
right.
is Kidonitsa, because it's one of my absolute favorites.
But this dish definitely calls for a white wine, where we like to think about light, crisp, refreshing, acidic wines that work well with the composition of this dip, because the dip has creaminess, it has lemon zest in it, it has the bitterness from the grape leaves. All that combined has different components, and we decided collectively, not because this is one of Susanna's favorite styles of wines, but we ventured off to an area in southern Greece,
I can't see what.
the most southern tip, well, not most southern, in the Peloponnese, an area called Monimvastia, where they cultivate a grape called Kidonitsa.
Yeah.
Kidonitsa has been making its way into the Greek wine market in the last 20 years. But prior to that, it was thought to be extinct. Maybe, Susanna, you can also chime in on maybe the history of Kidonitsa and, where it came from, or maybe the whereabouts and how it was discovered. Maybe I know a couple of wine farmers and producers in Greece that actually have been working with Kidonitsa for quite some time now. But
Yes.
it's a very rare white grape. It produces very distinct, unique flavors and textures, but it's absolutely delicious.
Well, let's explain the name, and maybe that will help people understand the quality of it. Kidoni is Greek for quince,
Yes.
and quince is the golden apple of ancient mythology. It's a relative of apple. It's very hard. You have to basically cook them. When you cook them, and they make wonderful desserts, when you cook them, they turn from gold to this gorgeous an almost fuchsia red. And the taste of quince, and you can get them twice a year at a good farmer's market, is wonderful. I like to dig them out, steam them, and then dig them out and fill them with a pork filling, or even lamb's a little too strong for them, or a vegetable kind of filling, a delicate vegetable filling. So you can do a lot of things with them, and you can make wonderful quince pies and quince desserts. They're incredible with whipped cream or yogurt cream. But anyhow, so the original thought about this wine, this grape variety, was that it was reminiscent of quince. It has overtones of quince, and so it's called Kidonitsa. It was hidden during the Ottoman Empire, very small acreage, only I heard around 600 or so hectares. When they finally found it buried and revived it. So for a while, it was very hard to get. And now it's caught on, and other vineyards are taking the shoots and planting it and spreading it as a varietal. But that's how it survived. And a lot of the incredible varietals of Greece, which never had phylloxera. So some of the varietals are thousands of years old. We don't know with Kidonitsa, because vineyards kind of develop their own hybrids or their own distinct, grape versions. Anyhow, but Kidonitsa, like others, was essentially buried and hidden for 500 years.
Amazing. And we only, at the current moment, we only see it being planted in that southeast corner of Peloponnesos. And we are very lucky, and we're very excited that we were able to bring in some of this delicious wine from the Monemvasia winery. And we have the Kidonitsa from the Monemvasia winery available on our platform. And we definitely highly recommend, for those of you that are adventurous, but beyond that, if you like well-structured white wine, this is something to definitely try.
And here's where I create Zelia, because I'm going to have Kidonitsa and one of my squash leaves, one of my blossoms.
Stiniapu and Kaliorixi.
I mean, I serve these all summer long, and they disappear faster than it takes me time to make them.
Well, that's a good thing.
Ron, my cameraman here, adores them.
I have one word for them. Yummy.
That's, I mean, just let it, what do you think, Susanna, as you're having your delicious, tempting stuffed zucchini blossom with the Kidonitsa?
Yeah.
That's all we need to know.
Yeah. It's a perfect combination.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ron, try it.
Try what? I'll drop the camera.
He's got the camera.
No, all right, I can do this.
Here, I'll turn it on him.
But we're very pleased to see that we have access now to the food ingredients, the wines that are coming over to us, and being able to utilize our platform to promote these wonderful options.
So Ron likes has he tried the wine as well?
He's trying it.
Here it comes.
And he's not a big white wine drinker.
But does it go together?
Perfecto.
Hey, there you go.
You got the food in your mouth, and let the wine just kind of pour over just a little bit.
Love it.
Excellent. So as Susanna had mentioned, we're going to load the recipe to this wonderful dish along with Ari when he gets the footage up on our platform. And there'll be a link also to this Kidonitsa wine.
So you have the recipe, Foti, right?
Yes, we have the recipe. We have the wine already loaded onto the platform, ready to go. I mean, this segment, like, once again, was filled with plenty of fun information. Um,
We learned as usual.
yeah, I mean, what haven't we learned? I mean, we're touching on all subjects. We're touching.
Oh, I didn't give you as many funny words as I usually do.
Give us one more before we come to the end of this great clip. Actually, I think our friend Karen had made a couple of interesting points and also some comments. She does. Karen does ask, this is one of your creations as far as the recipe goes, Susanna, which I'm
Oh, yeah, yeah, I made it up.
Oh, that's awesome. That's amazing.
You know, my main job, I'm a disaster anthropologist, and I write books all the time, and they would be normally classified, they are classified as nonfiction, but what I say is I made it up. I make up nonfiction.
I like that.
That's true talent.
I make up my recipes, yeah. But
And Ari, let's why don't we make a nice little announcement that we're going to be launching and releasing our upcoming newsletter, which we're very honored.
So very quickly, because Susanna's with us and she's going to be part of this, we are launching a newsletter which is just going to be bits and pieces of everything that we do. So there's going to be a very cool piece written by Susanna, about whatever she's into that day, whatever she feels like talking about, anything and everything. We're going to have pieces on wine. We're going to have pieces on food. We're going to have pieces on, philanthropy with fundraising. We're going to have pieces from different Greek products that we sell. So it's just going to be a little hodgepodge of Greece in these newsletters. So if anybody out there is interested, just sign up on Greekazon, and you'll receive this newsletter. And always watch for Susanna's piece, because I already know it's going to be one of my favorite parts of that, because it's just I love learning, I love listening, I love history, I love basically everything except the disaster part of her job. Everything else is great.
Well, and this is, this is information that you don't really learn growing up in school. This is, for us, it's a treat to come back to even our own roots as Greeks, to understand and realize about this information.
well, I'll tell you a funny story along that line that came out of one of our sessions a while ago. Feta, the word feta, I should have said that, just means slice. And it was such an ubiquitous cheese in Greece forever that, like a pizza, people would just go into a dairy shop and say, give me a slice. And
Interesting.
so it was, that's how, and the name slice became part of it. And Foti tells this story of his parents asking him to go get them a feta bread. And he didn't know whether it was a piece of bread, a piece of cheese, because he didn't know the word just meant slice.
Exactly. That was confusing as a kid. Like, wait a minute. Did you mean you want bread or do you want cheese? I don't get it. But that makes sense.
Yeah. And and the first time I saw feta in Greece, that was the first time I saw yogurt. I'll have to tell you my story of yogurt. It was I was up in Plaka, and I was watching this little, three-wheeled dairy truck come down the road and take out this enormous circle of stuff and start taking it into the dairy shop. And I ran up and I said, what is it? I thought it was a cheesecake because it, was solid and and he said, oh, it's yogurt. Do you want a slice?
That's amazing.
I know. You want a feta yogurt?
A feta yogurt, yeah.
Sure. I'll have a slice of that.
I love it. I love all the learning. I love these segments because it like Foti said, it's stuff we talk about every day, but like there's so many nuances, so many little tidbits that we just don't know about. And luckily we have Dr. Hoffman with us to fill those in. And
also, if I can just maybe shoot this out to Susanna with all this knowledge that you have about, the Greek culture. Ari and I, I'm not going to disclose anything at this segment, but Ari and I are working on some cool projects. But I'm sure you've come across a lot of Greek superstitions and so forth. We'd love to pick your brain at some point about all that, because those are also just as interesting and fun.
You mean how if you go out at night too late, the Moor is going to catch you?
Yeah, along those lines, pretty much.
Oh man, that's a part of anthropology that I find fascinating, like how people fall into their belief systems, and how it could be so strong within them that it could like dictate their life. It's just an amazing thing.
Even in 2021.
Yeah.
Well, I should also tell you, since we just finished the Olympics, that and remind you that the word trophy in Greek simply means food, and we have it as trophy. So we think of it as a medal, cup, and an award. But in the ancient days, what you won was food.
No way.
We should go back to doing that. I would compete in more Olympics.
So if you were a year's champion, you got a year's worth of that particular meet. You got a meeting of sports. You got a year's worth of trophy from your hometown.
Wow.
And the horse got epotrophy or horse feed.
So
But if you became a champion over time and you were a renowned champion, let's say Serena Williams, something like that, then, or today at 6:15, Maria Sakkari is playing at the US Open.
Yeah.
Watch her. Then you won lifetime trophy.
Wow.
Food in life.
Let me ask you this. Now that you said the word hypotrophy, we use it for scholarship.
Yeah.
So what does that tie in? So scholarship, hypotrophy. You said that the horses would get hypotrophy.
Horse feed.
Horse feed.
Well, colocythia, I mean, which we just squash, which we just talked about, means nonsense. You hear something that you just don't agree with, it, you think is completely farcical, you say colocythia. It's just squash.
That's so funny. That's my nickname for Foti.
Wow.
Colocythia.
I'm sure we can go on and on, which what makes this special. But
well, that's another reason why sign up for the newsletter as well. And every time we have a new segment, we'll also announce it, everywhere we usually will, our social media, the newsletter as well, and, many more to come with Dr. Hoffman that we look very much forward to. And I haven't asked her yet, but, she's going to be the ghostwriter of my autobiography. So I'm going to hit her with that soon.
Wait a minute. It can't yet. If it's an autobiography.
Oh, wait. See, that's why I need your help. I don't know. Biography, autobiography. It's all confusing. But we want to say a very, very, very special thank you, Susanna, for you bringing your amazing knowledge and your amazing recipes. Every time you do one, I just want to run out and try it. This one is quick and easy, so maybe I could handle it. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm definitely going to try it. And everybody out there watching and listening, you should definitely try these recipes. They are so, they're not just like tasty, but they're beautiful, and they have like this kind of cultural, this whole thing surrounding them. And that's what's really cool about these segments. And that's why we appreciate Susanna bringing it to us. Let me spotlight it. There you are. So again.
Yeah, this one's so easy. You're Konstantinos, who is what, 4 years old?
2.5.
2.5.
He's a big boy, though. He's a big boy. Yeah, well, I'll definitely let him try. He loves to do precise little mixing, so I think he could do it.
Okay, don't let him put his fingers in the Cuisinart.
No. But again, thank you so much, Dr. Hoffman. Thank you, Foti. We appreciate your time and your efforts, and we love these segments so much, and we appreciate everybody out there watching and listening. Stay tuned. We will be back with more cool stuff, more cool information, more cool education, more cool recipes, more cool wine. So We will see you guys next time. Thanks again, Dr. Hoffman, Fotios Stamos, and me,
And
Ari,
thank you, Karen.
and Karen out there. Thanks for your input. And we'll see everybody next time. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.